Hi, my name is Jenica, and the country that I chose to study this semester was Brazil. So this presentation is all about media and communications in Brazil. Let's get started. First off, a little bit about the country. Brazil is the largest country in South America. The capital of Brazil is Brasilia, but most people know Brazil for its largest city, which is Sao Paulo. The official language of Brazil is Portuguese, and the population size sits at right about 203 million people. The government in Brazil operates as a federal presidential republic, meaning that the presidents are elected by the people, much like here in the United States. Brazil was originally a Portuguese colony until it gained its independence in 1822. Portuguese culture still heavily influences Brazil's culture, language, and political system. Brazil's culture is very diverse, including indigenous populations, African influences, and European colonization. These different cultural influences have shaped what Brazil is today, and we could see these influences in their music, sports culture, and festivals. Now let's talk a little bit about Brazil's media system. So Brazil's media system is best described using the polarized pluralist model, which highlights the strong link between politics and media. This means that politics play a huge role in what is and is not broadcast in the news. The media in Brazil is mostly private-owned, with its largest outlet being Grupo Globo. Because there is a small number of large corporations that own the news outlets, there's limited diversity and perspective in the media. Much like in the US, Brazil has legal protections for free speech, but even with these protections, Brazil is still ranked 63rd out of 180 on the Free Speech Index of all countries. This ranking classifies Brazil's free speech environment as problematic due to the political pressures and polarization during these sensitive times. The media in Brazil plays numerous roles in its society. For one, it serves as a watchdog by holding their government accountable, but it is also a major source of entertainment through television and sports, mainly soccer. Now let's talk about the communication and infrastructure trends happening in Brazil. Like to most developed countries, Brazil's communication infrastructure is becoming increasingly digital. Traditional methods such as TV and print still do play an influential role there. However, in respects to communication, social media apps like WhatsApp and Instagram are used to connect people, with WhatsApp being the primary communication tool there. Internet access in Brazil is strongest in the urban cities, while it is weakest in the rural ones. The digital divide can affect education and limit opportunities for people to access information essential to their well-being. Trend-wise, citizen journalism has been on the rise in Brazil thanks to social media. Social media has played a huge role in this new journalistic approach, allowing everyday people to report and talk about news topics at their free will on their own platforms. Although this can be seen as a positive trend, it can also contribute to the spread of misinformation. There are ongoing debates amongst Brazil's government on how to effectively regulate these digital platforms, but nothing has been set in stone yet. Now let's talk a little bit about the cultural context of Brazil. So like mentioned before, Brazil's culture is heavily influenced by numerous different cultures, including African and European. Cultural traditions that are the strongest in Brazil include Carnival, which is an action-packed festival full of music, food, and dancing, and soccer, which is the official sport of Brazil. Their cultural values are shaped heavily by Catholicism, while their social norms are highlighted by expressive communication with an emphasis on emotion. These influences can be seen in Brazil's media content, such as their telenovelas, sports broadcasts, and social media. From a course perspective, this connects strongly to the concept of soft power, where Brazil influences global culture through entertainment, sports, and festivals. It also connects to cultural globalization, since Brazilian media content is widely consumed outside of Brazil and shapes how other countries view Brazilian culture. Now let's talk a little bit about some current news that is happening in Brazil. One major current event that is taking place in Brazil right now is the ongoing fight amongst environmental protection agencies and the agricultural businesses in the Amazon rainforest. While the government aims to protect the world's largest rainforest, businesses that view it as a profit are constantly fighting over the land and the resources. Another current event that is taking place in Brazil is the fight regarding indigenous land rights. Indigenous communities are facing challenges from logging operations who want to develop on their land for economic and agricultural growth, very similar to what's happening in the Amazon. The government has recently taken tremendous steps to officially recognize these indigenous territories and protect their lands. The media coverage that Brazil provides over these issues are important both nationally and internationally. Political debates spark conversation regarding environmental policy changes, while international media focuses heavily on the Amazon rainforest because of its environmental importance to the world. Both national and international coverage affects Brazil's global image as a country and plays a critical role in climate change debates and the balance between economics and the environment. So now let's do a little compare and contrast between Brazil and the United States. When comparing Brazil to the United States, it is important to acknowledge that both countries have similar political structures. Both countries do elect their own presidents. One of the biggest differences regarding media, however, is the role of television. In Brazil, TV remains as a dominant source of news, while in the US, media consumption has moved to be a lot more digital. Brazil's media ownership is highly concentrated amongst a small group of corporations like Grupo Globo, limiting the viewpoints and diversity, while the media ownership in the US is much more diverse and shared amongst many independent outlets. So here are a little of my personal insights. One thing that surprised me during my research on the media system in Brazil was how strong of an influence that television still has, despite the rise in technology and digital platforms. Something that interested me and ultimately led me to pursue studying more in Brazil was the cultural influences that soccer and carnival had over the culture. Just like any other country, however, Brazil still does face challenges when it comes to misinformation, media concentration, and digital divides. Technology is rapidly expanding in Brazil. High-speed fiber optic cables make 5G internet more accessible in places that internet has never been able to reach before. These advancements give Brazil's opportunity to grow their media platforms, digital journalism programs, and spread their cultural influence. Some course textbook integrations. For soft power, rather than relying on military power, Brazil spreads its global influence through its culture. This includes its traditions, music, sports, and food. Agenda-setting theory means that major media companies influence which issues receive public attention. An example of this is the environmental conflicts that involve the Amazon rainforest, including the deforestation and climate changes, which have received major news coverage lately. The polarized pluralist model highlights that politics are a huge influence in Brazil's journalism and digital media. The news is controlled by a small group of elites, which limits the diversity in the content. So here are some key takeaways. In conclusion, Brazil is a very diverse country, influenced heavily by many different cultures. Their influences can be seen all over the world in things such as soccer, food, music, and traditions. Regarding the media, Brazil's news outlets are all controlled by a small number of corporations. Their major news outlet, Grupo Globo, covers content ranging all the way from politics to entertainment. Even though they have laws in place to protect free speech, it is still considered problematic there due to political pressures and violence. While the digital divide is slowly decreasing, a gap still does remain between people in urban and rural areas. Internet access is limited by location and income, making it harder for people in rural cities to access information via digital media platforms. Overall, Brazil demonstrates how closely culture, media, politics, and technology are connected in today's globalized world, and how communication systems can both reflect and influence society. And here's my citations page. I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation on Brazil. Thank you.